It's a very warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new episode of Arab Affairs, our show bringing you all the latest news and developments in the Arab region. I'm Angie Meher joining you for today's edition of the show, and as usual we begin straight away with a look at some of the news making the headlines, beginning with a look at news from home, where Egypt welcomed on Saturday the announcement made by the UN Secretary General Special Envoy to Libya regarding the roadmap to resolving the Libyan crisis, particularly with respect to the formation of an interim government tasked with preparing for the holding of national elections in Libya within a specified time frame ranging between 12 and 18 months. In a statement released by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Egypt stressed the importance of adhering to this timeline, considering it essential to ensuring the credibility of the political process and achieving the aspirations of the Libyan people through a sound electoral path aimed at holding presidential and parliamentary elections. The statement said Egypt reiterates its full support for UN efforts aimed at restoring security and stability in Libya in a manner that safeguards the unity and sovereignty of the Libyan state. Still with our news, 34 Palestinians were killed by Israeli occupation fire in the Gaza Strip since early this morning, including some of them who were seeking aid. Meanwhile, the Palestinian news agency reported 19 others killed and others wounded in the occupation airstrikes on displaced camps in Khan Yunis, south of the Gaza Strip, as well as a house in Maghazi camp in central Gaza Strip. We have more details in this report.
Thirty-four Palestinians were killed by Israeli occupation fire in Gaza Strip since this dawn, including some of aid seekers. In the same context, Wafa, Palestinian news agency, reported 19 killed and others were wounded in occupation airstrikes on displaced camps in Khan Yunis, southern of Gaza Strip, and a house in Maghazi camp in central Gaza Strip. This comes as the occupation military announced it had taken initial steps in its push to capture Hamas's last major stronghold. The newly approved plan authorizes the call-up of roughly 60,000 reservists, deepening fears the campaign will worsen the already catastrophic humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. Israel's plans to expand the fighting and seize Gaza City have sparked international outcry as well as domestic opposition. The Red Cross became the latest voice to condemn the plan on Thursday, calling it intolerable. Ahead of the offensive, the Israeli military said the call-up of the reservists would begin in early September, adding the second phase of Operation Gideon's Chariots had begun. According to figures from the health ministry in Gaza that the United Nations considers reliable, Israel's offensive has killed at least 62,192 Palestinians, most of them are civilians.
And still with more news, the United Nations has officially declared a famine in Gaza, blaming systematic obstruction of humanitarian aid by Israel hours after the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, threatened to destroy the territory's largest city. A Rome-based Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Initiative, known as IPC, said that famine was now affecting over 500,000 people in the Gaza Governorate, which covers about a fifth of the Palestinian territory, including Gaza City. We have the details.
A global hunger monitor determined that Gaza City and surrounding areas are officially suffering from famine, and it will likely spread, an assessment that will escalate pressure on Israel to allow more aid into the Palestinian territory. in the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification IPC system said 514,000 people, close to a quarter of Palestinians in Gaza, are experiencing famine, with the number due to rise to 641,000 by the end of September. Some 280,000 of those people are in a northern region covering Gaza City, known as Gaza Governorate, which the IPC said was in famine following nearly 2 years of war in Gaza. It was the first time the IPC has recorded famine outside of Africa, and the global group predicted that famine conditions would spread to the central and southern areas of Deir el-Balah and Khan Yunis by the end of next month. It added that the situation further north could be even worse than in Gaza City, but limited data prevented any precise classification. The IPC struggled to get access to data required to assess the crisis. It is a famine that we could have prevented had we been allowed, said UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher. Yet food stacks up at borders because of systematic obstruction by Israel. Israel dismissed the findings as false and biased, saying the IPC had based the survey on partial data largely provided by Hamas. US President Donald Trump last month said many people there were starving, putting him at odds with Netanyahu, who has repeatedly said there was no starvation. Israel rejected the UN-backed report. Hamas urged the United Nations and UN Security Council to stop the war and lift the siege, calling for unrestricted access for food, medicine, water and fuel. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said it was a war crime to use starvation as a method of warfare, and said it may also amount to the war crime of willful killing. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for a ceasefire, saying they cannot allow this situation to continue with impunity.